Hello, hello, welcome to our channel. This week we are coming back to Tool. We have only 2 Saturdays left until finish of our Tool journey, really. It's so sad, isn't it?
Yeah, we will be waiting for the next album, I guess. But also, I think it's worth mentioning that this week, like right now, we will do Cooling Voices today, and then we will be left with 3 tracks. Last track is not really a song, so there will be 3 tracks, but really just one big song for the last episode of Tool, and it's gonna be Seven Empest or Zempest, Tempest. I don't know exactly how we are to pronounce it, but today it's Cooling Voices.
Cool. To be honest, I wanted to do Cooling Voices and Chocolate Chip Trip and then Seven Empest and Mocking Beat, but I haven't heard the song, so I'm just gonna follow your guide here. And we're gonna leave 3 songs to
Yeah,
next week.
so yeah, we didn't consult this actually, but I just thought that for last episode we can do like a little bit longer
Cool.
episode. So yeah.
Yeah, I like that. We're probably gonna do the summary of all the albums as well. And next week will be quite a big week for us because we will probably gonna have a little bit of a chat of next steps in the journey. You know, there's so many great bands. We have so many recommendations from you guys, so we're gonna try to schedule some kind of a plan, hopefully. As always, thank you so much for being with us, and thank you for our patrons. If you would like to support us, the link will be under the video. And yeah, let's do the cool voices. It's a little bit like in a church.
Is it?
Huh. Ooh.
Disembodied voices deep in mind, suspicious tendencies, conversation we've never had, imagined interplay, psychopathy. Don't you dare point that at me. Hated altercations we'll never had. So I'm told, yet guided by them all. Every single one. Psychopathy misleaded me over and over and over. Judge, condemn, and ban. psychopathy, misleading me over and over. Psychopathy, misleading me over and over and over.
Nice. Yeah, that was really really nice. I loved the way his voice sounded, and it was so delicate. And I thought it's gonna stay this way. To be honest, I didn't mind for the song to be really kind of delicate and kind of slowish throughout it all. But then at the end, it was really good and nice. This very strong change of tempo. I really really like that. Would you like to start this time?
I don't know. I so before we started recording, I think I mentioned to you that you're probably gonna like this because of the vocals at the beginning, and I still think that you really enjoyed them.
Yeah,
Looked
I
like that.
really, yeah, the vocal was brilliant. And you know, the word psychopathy in the song, oh my God, the way he sang it, it was so beautiful. I had no idea that you can sing it so nicely. Like the tone was so nice. While normally this particular word has a like negative connotation for me. So when I hear it in the song, usually I would expect like really strong, psychopathy type of thing. So I was really, really surprised, honestly, with how delicate and beautiful it sounded.
No, when you mentioned, it is the case that the psychopathy verse he sang very distinguishedly.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
interesting.
and kind of delicate and clean and clear. Oh, it was really, really good. But then it's so, I think it's honestly such a masterpiece in itself. That this particular word has been sung in this particular way as well. Let's start from the beginning, maybe. Culling voices. To be honest, I thought the song will be about something chilling, something that will calm me down. And when I heard the song, I felt it is more about those inner voices we have, or even um, some kind of hallucinations and the voices that may not be real.
Interesting. So I had slightly I agree with the part that the voices might not be real or they are kind of like inner voices. So your internal dialogue. That's how I took it actually for the first. That's my first like guess what it would be. It would be an internal dialogue. And do you know the meaning of the word cooling? Because I didn't know the meaning of that word.
I think I do. Let me know if I'm wrong. Read the definition, maybe, because for me it is
So,
kind of.
in biology, culling is the process of segregating organisms from a group according to desired or undesired characteristics. In
Oh,
animal
really?
breeding, it is process of removing or segregating animals from a breeding stock based on specific trait.
Oh, okay, so I didn't know the meaning, you see. Good you mentioned this. For me, it was something completely different. Isn't it like an idiom or have more than one meaning, this word? Let's have a look.
Now, I think because the cull, cull, means to select or to gather. So I think that's the
Mm-hmm,
uh,
mm-hmm.
translate. That's the meaning of culling.
Okay.
And
Oh,
maybe because of that I thought like inner voice. That's why I thought it's like inner dialogue. And then you have to select the like this dialogue. You have to select what is good and what is bad for you. And that's how I kind of link the
hmm.
psychopathy part. So
Yeah.
everyone has some kind of psychopath in themselves, and the trick
Mm-hmm.
is you have to cool those sane voices from those insane voices. So I mean that's just my interpretation. It
Mm.
might be completely wrong, and maybe I was biased because of the meaning of word cooling. I don't know.
I think I actually agree with you. I think I just misunderstood the title itself because I wasn't aware that this is the actual meaning of calling. Um, I think I absolutely agree. It has been referring to this type of different voices. I took it a bit more literal though, rather than inner voices. The first thing that kind of crossed my mind was some kind of psychological conditions and hearing voices in relation to conditions to mental health conditions such as schizophrenia, for example.
I mean, there's still I think that it's still inner voices.
Well, yeah, that's also true.
And there's this saying that everyone has a mental condition, just some of us are not diagnosed yet. So,
Yeah.
basing on that, I wouldn't like you could probably come up with a mental diagnosis for anyone on the earth. Like everyone has some kind of unique mental illness, right? Because everyone has a unique mind.
Well, this is a bold statement, but I personally agree with it. Yes, the more I grow up, I think the more I see that each one of us can actually have some disturbed mind in some way, you know. So yeah, I would agree with this. But some people are minds are more disturbed than others, and in terms of the inner voices, some inner voices are just our subconscious voices or our inner dialogues that we have with ourselves. But you know, at the point where you stop realizing when it's internal dialogue only with yourself, and when you kind of don't see this barrier anymore, when it's becoming hallucination, that's where you can kind of distinguish people with more disturbed minds from others. And that was my first take on the song, to be honest. That was it really. That was kind of internal dialogue of someone who is dealing with disturbed mind in some way, who is struggling yet. Who's also having a conversation with these voices. Don't you dare point that at me. Yeah, that's how I took it. But if we will go outside of this,
It's really similar, actually.
yeah, because that's the thing. It can be taken as just some kind of internal dialogue, internal conversation with inner voices. But because he is referring to the psychopathy, that's why I thought you can take song as some kind of, you know, maybe not a biography, that's not what I want to say, but some kind of a statement of someone with disturbed mind, kind
Or
of.
someone who thinks or who is afraid that his mind might be disturbed.
Yeah, that would be even better, and it can be slightly different interpretation. Either shouldn't it, couldn't it? Sorry, if it was someone who is actually overthinking, over analyzing, like in previous two songs, that's a direct reference.
But also, he might be kind of justifying his actions, putting this on his psychopathy side. So heated altercation we've never had, so I'm told, yet guided by them, every single one, yet guided by them. So he's done actions based on those voices. And then
Mm-hmm.
he's thinking it's psychopathy misleading me over and over. So he's like not maybe not seeing that he has a choice and he just made a wrong choice. So he's
Hmm.
justifying that by projecting some psychopathy.
But then there's also this aspect of awareness misleading me over and over. So it is a dialogue. It is attempt to understand what is going on in the mind. It is realization that some voices can be misleading. Some of them may not be real. You know. So I wouldn't take it from that angle. I think at this stage. But then, don't you dare point that at me. So he's kind of rejecting the blame in a way, right? Like taking off the responsibility for those actions a
Yeah,
little bit.
projecting it onto the psychopathy.
Hmm. So again, let's come back to the Culling voices. Let me just load up the definition again. Reduction of a wild animal population by selective slaughter. Okay.
So here I think what he's doing is selecting
Mm-hmm.
true voices or correct voices from incorrect ones, or good from bad, or just selecting based on some kind of key.
But I think by selection you mean that he's putting some of them aside. I think it's more like just selection, just kind of distinction and trying to distinct the real of,
Categorization, you mean?
yeah, something like categorization in that sense. That's what I would think of the song.
I mean, that's very close terms because in order to select, you have to categorize. Select is just a
Mm-hmm.
preference based on some category.
Hmm. So he's kind of trying to distinguish the misleading voices from those that are
Or his true voice,
real.
like what is
But
his
then,
psychopathy and what is his true self, maybe?
yes, because maybe, because I think I've been looking at it from a wrong angle slightly, because when we've been referring these voices to the selection, I had in mind something like biased, untrue, misleading voices from the real voices, from the reality in a
Mm,
sense, but it's not actually reality, is it?
it's
It's
hard
just the inner, your inner thoughts that are real
yeah, that's
from,
kind of a deep topic because it's hard to like, is your inner dialogue reality? Of course it is reality, but all can
is
you
it real?
yeah, I mean, exactly, is it real?
Huh. Because
No
now
one
I'm,
else can see your thoughts, right? So is it real? I cannot tell. I cannot uh, I cannot design experiment to confirm whether thoughts you're having and you're
Mhm.
telling me that you're having. I have no way to confirm this. So scientifically, it's unproven, kind of, isn't it?
Well, Descartes would disagree. I think, therefore I am, and that's actually the only real thing that you can prove. No one can take it away from you.
So
Everything else
maybe
can be misleading.
maybe unfalsifiable would be a better word. Like I have no way to falsify your claim what you think. Like I can only if you
Hmm.
say to me I think X and Y,
Hmm.
I have no way to falsify that statement. You like I have just no way.
Because you cannot get into the person's mind.
Exactly, yeah. Only you can do it.
It's not about just the standard test and the logic. It's about what is actually going on in your mind, how to
And
distinguish this. And you are the only person that can make this distinction and this selection. And how hard it is when you have literally no comparison because you cannot jump into other person's mind just for a moment to compare it. So how you're gonna know which voices are misleading and which ones are the ones that come from the inner self.
exactly, and then you can introduce that question you asked before, like what is real? Like it's either all voices are real or none of them are real, right? I don't see how it can be different.
That's the thing. We cannot falsify the statement that some of them are and some aren't either. Maybe it is true because each person has their own mind. Oh my god, this is so deep. But you know, I really like where this conversation is going. And I really think that the song had something to do with this. I really like the statement you said about the kind of selection, the kind of analysis of your own thoughts and of your own voices, of your types of trying to type the inner voices you have. But then the whole song was in a like the way the song sounded to me was really kind of cool and calming as well.
Okay.
So that's what's a bit paradoxical here, I think,
But
as
the
well.
ending, don't you dare point that at me or point that at. It wasn't calming.
Well, it was really strong, but
It was
it was
intense.
refreshing as well in a sense.
True, yeah.
So it was just kind of to emphasize the whole internal conversation we had. And like the whole song put me into this kind of really refreshing, delicate, melancholic mood again. So
But then
it feels just different from what we are discussing in a sense, because what we are discussing and what the lyrics and in the song were really kind of strong and deep, you know, like really deep considerations into the reality and to the our own voices, our mind. But yet the song was kind of, I don't know, slightly different. You would say
so
I almost want to say it didn't fit compared to the lyrics, yet it was a perfect fit. It
so
just sounded brilliantly.
what if it's not inner are those inner voices for sure? Maybe it's not about inner voices. Although it says disembodied voices deepen my suspicious tendencies. That's
Yeah.
also interesting. Suspicious tendencies. It's almost like he's trying to analyze himself, diagnose
Hmm.
himself. Some tendencies he has are suspicious, and looks like he's diagnosing himself with psychopathy, and then he's trying to categorize which thoughts, which voices um, are manifestation of that psychopathy and which aren't. I don't know. It's very interesting topic, at least.
It is, and again, it kind of brings me back to this to considerations of some kind of mental health conditions with again what crosses my mind is schizophrenia or the hallucinations people have. Yet you actually mentioned something quite interesting. What are these voices? It says disembodied voices, and that's how it starts. So your first thought is that this refers to some kind of inner voices that are not specified in the reality in a way that aren't that you cannot put them into 3D perspective, right?
Actually, this might be his whole inner dialogue, because later conversations we've never had, imagined interplay. It sounds to me definitely as inner dialogue, like just his, like a movie from his head, from his life.
Judge, condemn, and banish any and everyone. But what if it's probably wrong, and and it's not going to be it. But what if these voices were reflection of judgments and opinion of others? What if it's not referring to just you, but to the actual outside world? I know
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
not like it's not really straightforward. And first thoughts
No, I
is
think,
rather something that you should look inside yourself.
but it is in. If I understand, correct me if I don't, if I'm not understanding it. So you say it's about his voices judging other people, let's say?
Not his voices, that's the thing. What if he's just analyzing the voices that come into him from the outside world, from the others, from friends, from people, from family, the
Like
actual
opinions of other people.
opinions? Yes, but they are disembodied because they are all kind of almost flowing into one. He cannot distinguish between them anymore. And then he kind of trying to find his own judgment in its own in this whole
His own opinion.
type of different judgments that are around him and that have are feeding to him into him. You know, that would be really interesting take on this.
Maybe psychopathy is all of that, like all the mash the mix of opinions of of other people is the psychopathy that misleading him over and over. Yeah, I think we could go there.
So, like I've checked the kind of standard definition of the psychopathy because I feel like I've been looking at it slightly differently again. Um, Psychopathy, sometimes considered synonymous with sociopathy, is traditionally a personality disorder characterized by persistent antisocial behavior, impaired empathy and remorse, and bold, disinhibited, and egoistical traits. But it's not necessarily some kind of mental conditions that causes you to hallucinate or to hear some inner voices or a
No,
variety of voices that aren't real,
no.
right?
It's more like just type of personality.
Yes, so essentially, it may actually refer, it may be kind of assessment of personality, the song itself,
Yeah,
through analysis of the voices that are coming from the outside, but the voices are disembodied because he heard so much of them, so he doesn't put one voice to specific person. He's just trying to analyze all the opinions and all the ideas that come into him through others, that
I
others passed into him.
I think I understand. Would you say it's like so the psychopathy is a type of personality, right? What if
Let's call it like
he's
this, yeah.
taking a mob, a number of people,
Mm-hmm.
and trying to figure out what is
Mm-hmm.
the personality kind of personality of multiple people?
Or which opinions, because people can have different opinions. And for example, if you're trying to place this in some kind of specific situation, let's say at school, your parents may have different expectations, your teachers may have different expectations, your peers may have completely different expectations. Each of them tells you something. There are some opinions, and you are just trying to kind of understand them and to distinguish the ones from wrongs, the ones that are
Mm-hmm.
misleading from those that aren't. It is quite a basic example, but if you would
I
try to
s-
kind of place it in some kind of situation,
I
right?
see what you mean. I went into the direction of something like that, that you know how one person is kind of unpredictable, like in a casino, if he plays, his actions aren't really that predictable, but when you have
Hmm.
hundreds of people, you can spot the patterns, and I thought I
It's
went in.
easier to spot the
It's easier
patterns
to
the
spot
more
the
people you have.
patterns, yeah, and maybe this is like that. Like when you take the whole society, you can spot almost like personality of that society, if you know what I mean. And this is
And
psychopathy.
certain traits of thoughts as
Yeah,
well,
like
center
patterns.
moralities, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Moral values.
And then you are noticing that maybe the type of personality of that whole society is psychopathic.
And and also only thanks to the comparison, you are able to realize or distinguish what is misleading from what isn't, and what you agree from what you disagree with. Because sometimes, especially when it's coming just from one outside factor, from for example, when you are a child and you have just this one idol who kind of is feeding you, who is your main teacher in a sense, you can't understand their actions at
Yeah,
times, and it's really hard for you to understand until you have a chance and opportunity to compare it to some actions of others.
yeah.
And again, yes, the more there is people like this, the easier in a sense it gets to pick up the certain patterns, and that's what these voices may reflect. I really like it. Yeah, that's really interesting. I also do like um, kind of our first line of interpretation, that it's more like inner voices, the dialogue. But I just like to kind of dig into this one, because I just think it's quite interesting, isn't it, to look at it from this perspective rather than
Yeah, I
from
think
the
it's
individual
the
perspective,
most
the individual voices.
it's the most fun in this reacting to or trying to analyze those songs, because we can have whatever interpretations we want. We can
Hmm.
just have a discussion, and this is just a starting point, and I think
Yeah.
that's cool.
Yeah, and regardless of the amount of interpretations or the ones that we prefer, um, the song as a whole experience was really, really good, because it was, again, almost as the analysis that we are having now does not reflect on the delicateness of this song. I know it had really strong ending, and it fitted there as well. It was kind of, you
It
know,
was, I would say, maybe it was intense rather than strong, and then that word,
yeah,
it intensified. It still had
yes,
its own unique vibe, but it was intensified
yeah.
compared to the first part.
And it was and the guitar was really nice as well. The other day when we've listened to Numa by Danny Carey, the drums were amazing, but I didn't hear them that much in this song. I heard what was kind of standing out in this song. I felt like it was a guitar.
But then in the intense part, I think there was
Yeah,
lots of drums as well.
yeah, there was, but the intense part was just at the end. So like the main
Yeah.
part, I would say it was like really, really delicate. But what stand out to me from the sound itself was the really, really nice guitar. Yeah, I think I'm happy with this. I'm really happy with what we've achieved today. I hope you enjoyed the reaction. If no, just let me know. Let me know what you think about the song as well. Um, and let me know your thoughts, generally speaking. I cannot wait till next week, but I'm also really sad that it's gonna be our last meeting with Tool for some time until they're gonna release a new album. But on the other hand, there's brand whole new palette of possibilities and songs that we can react to. So, yeah, thank you so much for watching, and see you next week.
Thank you.